Hello and welcome to my top 10 pandemic apocalyptic books. It has been something I've been wanting to do for some time, so I thought, why not? It's the day before New Year's Eve, and what could possibly go wrong apart from the fact that we're sitting under a tornado watch in happy Yorkshire. Can you imagine? The two seem quite strange, but here we are. Anyway, I thought while the weather's really awful outside, I would do a top 10 pandemic apocalyptic collection, and we're going to start with this one at number 10. It is called Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. It was first published in 2012 by Century, and by hardback. It's a hardback by Century Books, and this edition is from 2013 by Arrow Books, and it's the first edition of the paperback. And so we start off with a character whose name is Jackson Oz, and he needs us to listen very carefully. We are in the middle of a global meltdown. Animals are waging war on mankind. There have been savage attacks, and they are spreading across the globe as he writes. Every single animal on the planet is a potential threat, and we are all in danger. Who caused it? Why is it? What is it? Is it a natural cause, or is it man-made? And can we humans catch the disease? Our lives with our animals are so interwoven. Can we imagine our lives without them? Yes, it's quite a good question. Could we? You'll love this book. Absolutely fantastic. Cannot recommend it enough. Get it read. Get it done. The next one is Apocalypse Cow. Oh, forget the cud. They want blood. Oh, you're not going to stop laughing. This is, quite honestly, the funniest book I've ever read on apocalyptic zombie cows. It was first published in 2012 by Doubleday in hardback. That's your first edition. And this edition is 2013, first paperback, first edition of this paperback. And well, you'll see why it won the Terry Pratchett Award, because it's just brilliant. Basically, it became an epidemic that transformed Britain's livestock into sneezing, slavering, flesh-craving, four-legged zombies. And if that wasn't bad enough, the fate of the nation seems to rest on the shoulders of three hopeless individuals. An abattoir worker whose love life is non-existent thanks to the stench of death that clings to him. A teenage vegan with extreme eczema, and a really inept journalist. As Britain descends into chaos, these unlikely heroes must pool their resources to escape the zombie herds and find a cure and save the world. That's right, three losers, overwhelming odds, one outcome, and yes, we're screwed. I would honestly say that this book ploughs the same furrows as Shaun of the Dead, and it's so funny with a very dark sense of humour. You'll absolutely love it. The next one on the list is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. First published in 1954. This edition was published in 2006 by Galanzik. Well, I'm quite sure you all know the story. I Am Legend. Robert Neville is the last man left alive on Earth, but he's not alone. Every other man, woman and child on the planet has become a vampire. Neville spends his days scavenging for food and supplies and hunting down the undead in their lairs and basically ramming a stake through them. And at night time he becomes, unfortunately, the hunted, and barricades himself in his home with his garlic and his crucifixes and his mirrors and everything else, and he sits there waiting and praying for the dawn to arrive. I would say I Am Legend is one of the first and certainly the most brilliant fusion of horror and science fiction. It's very powerful and very disturbing. It's a classic, and it's a very enduring novel that has had a very profound impact on a generation of writers. After all, it did inspire Stephen to be the king of horror. Yes, I am talking about Stephen King was so enamoured with Richard Matheson that Richard made him become an author. So thank you, Richard. Without you, we'd never have had Stephen King. And that would have been a crime against humanity. Yeah, it certainly would. Right, the next one on our list is The Virus by Stanley Johnson. That's Boris Johnson's dad. He's also been known, this book has also been known as the Marburg virus from 1982. And this is the first edition from 2020 by Black Spring Press. Well, what can I say? It's an absolute bonkbuster of a pandemic novel. Dr. Lawrence Kaplan, one of the United States' top epidemiologists, aided and abetted by Stephanie Verusio, jet across the globe in a race against time to discover the secrets behind a deadly novel disease that threatens to wipe out half the world. A brilliant tale of geopolitics in the manner of Robert Ludlum. Fabulous, very fast-paced, lots of graphic sexual engagements, and the blueprint of how we managed to survive COVID. Lots of exotic places, violence, and the sex is a fantastic start from start to finish. Honestly, the sex scenes in this book are just like make you think, really? I can see why you're Boris Johnson's dad. So, the next one after this is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This was first published in the USA in 2014 by Alfred A. Knopf, and this is a second edition in 2015 by Picador. This beautiful, beautiful novel. One snowy night in Toronto, a famous actor called Arthur Leander dies on stage while performing the role of a lifetime, King Lear. The same evening, a deadly virus touches down in North America and the world will never be the same again. 20 years on, there's a young actress called Kirsten in the Travelling Symphony, and she performs Shakespeare in the settlements that have grown up since the collapse of society. But then her newly hopeful world is threatened, and it's threatened in such an awful way. Ask yourself this: if civilization was lost, what would you preserve and how far would you go to protect it? It's beautifully, stunningly written book, and it's such an adventure. You can see why it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 2015. I'd give this one a go. It's absolutely lovely. Number 5 is The Survivors by Terry Nation, which I covered in my Hackman calendar. Oh gosh, what can I say? It's lovely. It's a quintessential British classic. Abby Grant is the middle-class lady who survives the onslaught of a killer virus, but she sadly loses her husband David to the virus, and he's a really good egg. Facing this loss, she sets off to find their only son Peter, who was at boarding school when the virus hit. And we follow Abby as she sets off on her epic adventure and all the survivors that she finds along her way. And I warn you, the ending is quite shocking. and it's not what you would think. But fantastic. I definitely would put this on your to be read list. You won't regret it. It's absolutely wonderful. Well, the next one, number 4, is The Plague by Graham Masterton. Again, I also covered this in my Advent calendar, but it had to go in this pile because it's in my top 10, obviously. Dr. Petrie lives in Florida with his daughter Prickles and his girlfriend Adelaide, and his ex-wife also lives in Florida, and her name's Margaret. It's a very dystopian novel, a pandemic as well, because obviously it's in my top 10 pandemic apocalyptics. It's all about a plague that ravages Florida, but doesn't stay in Florida. It decides to go on a little holiday all across the United States, and it destroys everything it touches. Nothing is left alive after a few hours. It's that fast. I've never known a disease go that quickly or that violently, but it did, and it goes all the way to New York, where they try to reach and find a scientist there who may or may not have a cure for the plague. And on the way, it covers everything that happens to these poor people. And Adelaide, I truly feel sorry for Adelaide, the doctor's girlfriend, because how she is treated on this journey is absolutely awful. And if you read the book, you'll understand why. Yeah, because it is truly nasty little story, but fantastically written. And it's got praise by Stephen King, so you can't go wrong. Down to number 3 is The Ringway Virus by Russell Foreman. A British family are on holiday in Australia and suddenly find itself prey to a mysterious illness. At first, it was diagnosed as simple flu, but within a matter of weeks, all of them were to die. It's at this point that we start to realise that the existence of this new and utterly lethal virus, and it's something that we don't have any resistance to at all. It's 100% mortality, and it's basically heralding the end of the human race, unless of course a tiny few could isolate themselves sufficiently to survive. There might be hope for mankind, but it's a massive gamble. It's quite a nightmare of a tale, and I also covered this in my Advent calendar, so it's in there as well if you want a review. I haven't given too much away because I don't want to spoil it. It's a fantastic novel. You will absolutely love it. I know I did, and I know that you will as well. Now, number 2 is A Deadly Messiah, and I've only just got this for Christmas, so I might be a little biased to why it's so high up on my list, but it is absolutely fantastic. It is written by David Campbell and Albert Fairhill, and I've only just started it, so far it has made my skin not only want to crawl off my body, but it wanted to hide under the bed. Those poor people in Bensonville, Kentucky, what happened to them is truly a WTF moment. 2 exclamation marks. I am not kidding you. I've only got 50 pages into this book and I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm going to read a little bit more tonight because obviously it's pouring down outside, so I won't be going out anywhere. And so I'm going to hide in bed and read what happens to everyone else in the United States. I can honestly say, if I was a president, I think I'd go and hide as well. It's a thrilling ride. It's really full of terror and a one-way ticket to hell so far, so I'm really enjoying myself. And last but not least, this book is called Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. And I've already covered this one in my Advent calendar. but I had to read you this because it means so much. Men go and come, but earth abides. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verses 4. It's an absolutely fantastic novel. This book is a first edition from 1949 and it's 73 years old. It's 74 years in a few days. Right? Basically, if you know the tale, Isherwood Williams was bitten by a rattlesnake while out in the mountains of the Black Creek. He manages to survive and slowly crawls back to civilization, only to find out that a lethal virus has managed to kill off nearly the whole of the world's population. He manages to befriend a girl dog called Princess and eventually finds a female survivor called Emma, who after much discussion with each other decide to say that in the eyes of God they are married, and they start the process of building their little family. It's quite the odyssey from start to finish with Isherwood, and the hammer and chisel become the tokens of his new tribe and will be passed from father to son in perpetuity, as Isherwood and Emma were the founders of the new settlement and the new world. Oh my goodness, this is a granddaddy of a book. Absolutely gorgeous, beautifully bound. One of my ultimate top 10, bang on number 1 favourite. You've got to give this book a try. It is the grandfather of pandemic novels. You will absolutely love it. I can't recommend it enough. Get out there and get yourself a copy. And that, my darlings, concludes my entire top 10 collection of apocalyptic novels of the pandemic nature. Let me know what yours are. I would love to know. Please click and subscribe. I would appreciate a like button. I'd appreciate if you subscribed. There'll be more of these type of novels as I go along in the new year. And please join me on my 52-week challenge, where I am going to attempt to read 1 book a week for every week of this new year. Whether or not I'll manage it, I don't know, because I have quite a busy life. However, I'm up for the challenge, so if you would like to join in, that will be a lot of fun. We will see how it goes. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as I always say, happy readings, darlings, and enjoy!